Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for mine, and it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. And, of course, live around the world on the interwebs at MichaelDukesShow.com, where you'll find the podcast, links to the social media, the audio-only live stream, and, well, everything else. It's what it is. Fridays, of course, the one day a week that we dedicate to discussions of the Second Amendment, gun laws, gun rights, everything related to guns and firearms and the good stuff. It's a fun day. We got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to be joined here in just a minute or two here by the folks from the Northern Hunter podcast. We're not only going to talk about the podcast and what they do, we're also going to be talking about a workshop that they have coming up this next Saturday. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. Up in Fairbanks. We'll be talking about that, getting some rundown and some straight dope on that. And then we'll talk again a little bit about their podcast and what they cover, and maybe we'll get their opinions on some stuff as well. I don't know. We'll see what we can shake out of them as we go through here. And we'll be doing that. That's in hour 1 this morning. In hour 2, we'll be joined by Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion from season 4 of the History Channel show Chop Shot. He comes in for his monthly visit with us, and we're going to be covering a lot of different things, including we'll be talking about the latest from the Ninth Circuit, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where they are now hearing challenges to some of the challenges from the CRPA, which is the California Rifle and Pistol Association's bill, which is asking about so at their own peril at this point. So we'll see how that lays out, and we'll see what goes on from there. But we'll have a discussion with Chris Cheng about that and other topics this morning as we go through. Plus, we've got, of course, some headlines to cover, some of the big gun stuff from around the state and around the nation. And we will also, of course, be finishing up the show this morning with our friend Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com, who gives us, we try and lighten it up at it's the last segment of the show, and it's a little movie review, kind of streaming what's going on in the entertainment. I mean, I'm sure many of you don't care, but I always like to leave it a little bit lighter at the end because, man, sometimes we get hot and heavy on some stuff, and it just sucks your soul, right? So it's going to be doing it this morning. All right, so the boys from the Northern Hunter are in the green room. I can see them right now, but I do have to cover just a couple headlines just to give you a taste of what we're going to be covering in the beginning of hour 2. So let me just give you this is the first taste is free, baby. You pay from here, but the rest of it's free. So the big news, of course, is that the big news is that the president and the Biden administration has decided that they're going to close the gun show loophole. I mean, that's what they say. But that's not really what it is. They say that they're trying to crack down on the gun show loophole. The problem is that there really isn't a gun show loophole. What they, the stories that they're being told by news media, talking heads, and everything else is, it's not truthful, right? They envision people and gun dealers and everything else going to gun shows or private dark alleys and selling all these guns without following the letter of the law and doing everything else. The truth of the matter is that anywhere that a gun is sold by a federally licensed firearm dealer, regardless if it's out of the bed of his pickup truck, in a dark alley, in a gun show, or across the counter of his store, he is required by federal law to do the background check and the 4473 and all that kind of stuff. But that's not how they portray it. They portray that there's a bunch of rogue people and gun dealers and everything else going to these gun shows and selling stuff willy-nilly. So, on the face of it, this whole common sense gun thing, right? That's what it's a common sense gun thing. They say, well, this will help it because this will mean that everybody has to. No, what they're doing is they're expanding the definition of what it means to do commerce under, who is engaged in business and who is engaged in the business of selling firearms. There used to be a pretty clear and delineated line as to when you had to achieve or attain your FFL because you were in the business or the commerce of making a living from selling guns. Well, they're starting to meddle with the verbiage, and they're taking things like may and shall, and they're substituting different things. And basically, Stephen Gutowski over at The Reload says, to me, it seems like it's more of an attempt to cast a cloud over people selling used guns to make them think that they need a license, even if it's not entirely clear that they do, which unfortunately is not an uncommon thing for the ATF to do at the moment, or to cloud the waters, to muddy the waters on these kind of stuff. So we're going to get into that discussion on this new loophole. Of course, the anti-gun media and everybody else, they're doing a freaking happy dance, clapping each other on the back, telling everybody how they're saving the world by, doing these, by doing this, and they're closing that gun show loophole. Again, always ignoring the fact that criminals, by their very definition, are going to break the law. So tell me again how that one more law is going to fix everything? Boy, all these laws, 73 different laws, statutes, and codes that would prevent you from going into a mall and killing people. But that sign on the door that says it's one time, it's going to happen, right? Anyway, so that's just a tease as to where we're going here in just a little bit. There's a lot of stuff to cover, including, by the way, the latest round and what happened with the Michigan shooter's parents, where they took the parents to court, and now both parents have been sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison. This is a sticky one, and we're hopefully we're going to have enough time to cover this today because it's an interesting. I watched way too much court TV. Let me just say that, way too much court TV over that case, and we'll continue that discussion. All right, but it is time, my friends. Let's get into the quick tease here before we have to jump to break, and we'll get started. We'll get some introductions on. The folks from the Northern Hunter podcast are now down in the green room. Let's get things ready to rock and roll, and we will get started this morning and have them join us right now. Good morning, folks. How you guys doing?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having us on.
Well, I appreciate it. So we've got Dalton Gray is with us, I see. And Dalton, you want to introduce everybody around the round table there for the podcast?
Yes, thanks for having us on the show, Michael. I'm Dalton Gray. I do the marketing for the Northern Hunter Media, and sitting across the room is our company owner and founder, James Payne. And then on the back of the end of the table here is our producer and my brother-in-law, Mariah Humphreys.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you got your brother. That's where it gets dangerous. You get your brother-in-law in there, and he's the
Yes, sir.
producer. He can make you sound great or horrible, one of the two. It's gonna be interesting. All right, guys. So I'm excited to talk with you today. We're going to talk a little bit about what I want to talk about the Hunter podcast. But originally, you guys were brought to my attention because you're going to be talking next Saturday at noon about bear baiting. So I feel baited into this conversation. Let's why don't you give me, we got about 4.5 minutes here. Why don't you guys give me the rundown as to what's going on and what's happening, where it's at, and we'll get some more details here.
Yeah, so we've been in the kind of media realm for a little bit now. We have had our podcast that's been it's our primary outreach for 85 episodes now, and so this event is kind of the next stage of our outreach. So what our main goal is to educate people and to help everybody just feel confident in going out in the woods and achieving their goal of being successful and harvesting animals. And bear baiting is one of those I don't even know what you call it, like a hot kind of topic for some people. There's
controversial.
Yeah, there's mixed opinions about it, and then there's people who are really interested in it, but it's hard to find information kind of because of that fact. So we're having an event here in Fairbanks. It's going to be at the J.P. Jones Community Center on April 20th, starting at noon. And it's basically going to be a full afternoon event of educational content to kind of debunk any issues people might have, preconceived notions people might have about bear baiting, explain the why we bear bait, what the positive reasons are, the ethics behind it, and then all the nitty gritty stuff. So how to get out there, find a good spot, set up your bait, be successful out in the woods. And there's, a lot of mishaps that happen with new folks. I myself came up to Alaska in 2009 with the Army, and I understand what it's like to try and figure it all out yourself, year by year, mistake by mistake, and to help people kind of avoid those multi-year processes of learning and just jump in a little faster. It's going to be good, and we're excited to bring it to the public and kind of connect with the community. And the kind of secondary greatest part of this is it helps people connect with a group of individuals that are also interested in the same things as they are. So if you found yourself in Alaska, or maybe you're just not an extroverted individual and don't have a huge friend group, this will help you find other people that you're in common with. So.
And is this, do you guys see this as a you said this is the start. Do you guys see this as a the beginning of a series of things that will tell people about about how to hunt, how to go out there and experience the very outdoors? Is that kind of part of the plan here?
Absolutely. Yeah. This one is our first ever live in-person event. And, depending on the amount of interest, which I'm based on the last couple of weeks of responses, is pretty good. We're going to do a whole lot of these. We're going to do different ones for, a few that we've got in the books that we're looking at doing would be planning a float trip, how to go through all the logistics of doing a float trip, how to gauge legal antler size and full curl horn size on a sheep and stuff like that, keeping people where they're comfortable when they go out, let's say for their first sheep hunt or their first moose hunt in a Spike Fork 50 area. They're confident in their ability to count what is legitimately brow tines, what are the good methods to stay within the bounds of the law, because that's a huge thing for conservation, making sure everybody does what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, nobody wants to get sideways with fin and fur, right? I mean, come on, it's
exactly.
Was that 10 or was that 12 tines? I mean, what you want to make sure that you have them all squared away there. And bear baiting. Now, we've hunted bear, we've shot bear before when I was younger, but we never did a bear baiting. And I've always been interested in the mechanics of it. So it sounds like it would be an interesting discussion. And again, especially for folks who maybe are novice hunters or are just what I like to call hunter curious. You know, they might be interested, but they don't know who. You know, it's intimidating when you walk into one of the stores or something, and you're like, "Tell me about hunting," and they're like, "Oh." You know, and then they feel intimidated because they don't have the information. It's the same thing we do around here. We try to reach out to the gun curious people for the same reason. So we're going to continue with the fellows from the Northern Hunter podcast here, but we got to take a break. We're going to come back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We got more. Chris Cheng in hour 2, Top Shot champion, will be joining us. And more. Going to be a fun time. We'll be back right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the commercial break right now. The fellas from the Northern Hunter podcast are with us as well. Mariah, if you guys can pull your feed down to me just a little bit, because you guys are you're smashing the headroom there just a little bit. So I'd like to make sure that I don't kill everybody on the other end of the radio there as we go through. I mean, this sounds like a fun time. Although Brian says, "You mean we have to meet in person?" Shut up.
I mean, you can listen to the podcast too. I mean,
right,
that's
introverts unite. I mean, we're just gonna, no, it's tough sometimes. But I mean, I have to laugh because that's really the feel. You know, people are like, "Oh, I'm really interested in this hunting thing," but they're so embarrassed after if they don't know somebody that's a hunter. Then where do you go? You know, and you feel like somebody's going to lord it over you because you're the. You know, it's the same thing if you're a gun person or interested in guns and you go to a gun store and they're just, "Oh, you idiot. Let me just tell you how it is."
Yeah.
And it's a tough situation. You know, it's the problem with being manly man doing manly things. Sometimes we get our superiority a little too jacked up and we're like, just educate people, man. Just educate people. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do out there. So give me a little bit of a tease. I hate to repeat from the commercial breaks back to the radio, but 85 episodes, that's a pretty good track right now. I know there's a lot of, podcasts that once you hit that 25 or 30 threshold, it's like, oof, is this really worth it? Are we really, it's a lot of work for 5 listens or 5 views or 2 subscribers or whatever. Having done something along the lines of 1,500 episodes of podcasting, I understand exactly where you guys are coming from. But so how's it been? How long have you guys been podcasting?
So we started in, I believe it was October of 22, and we have a show that comes out. It's every Monday morning, and we have successfully done it every Monday morning, every week since then. So,
damn. That's consistency, man. That is. Let me applaud you on that. That's some consistency.
That's this guy here. I mean, we all show up to talk on the mics, but Mo is the backbone of the tech side of this.
He's beating you in the background with a stick to get into the office.
He's the guy that's willing to cut time out of his weekend to sit down and edit this thing and cut out all of our mishaps and uhs and ums and wandering statements.
That's the crazy thing. I mean, I have to laugh. I've done 1,500 episodes, but essentially none of them are edited. They're live and real. We just do it. We go, we dump the show, we put it in there. I've done other podcasts as well. And yeah, the amount of effort to edit those things is pretty monumental. So, I mean, I've done that for sure. So good on you guys. I'm surprised you're not all bouncing around the room with all the cans I see behind you on the wall. You guys,
that's our mural. Yeah, we're working on it. Yeah,
I decided you're not bouncing around the ricocheting off the walls with all the energy.
I mean, at this point, Red Bull might as well be our #1 sponsor.
They should. You should reach out to them and say, "Hey, look, you guys give us wings, and pay us some money to do there as well. Well, I am interested to see. It's unfortunate. We're when you guys hear the bell, that means we're 30 seconds out. So if you're talking, just remember that.
Okay.
But of course, the outdoor show is next weekend as well.
Yeah.
And, you guys should reach out to Courtney, who is the gal who runs the outdoor show, because they're always looking for seminar speakers. And
sure.
that would have been a great, they do seminars. They've done seminars on Saturdays and Sundays over at the Carlson Center for all the attendees. So anybody wants to show up. So you guys, if you got a free Sunday, you may want to call her and I'll send you her email and you guys can reach out to her. But she's always looking for, experts in the field, so to speak. So that would be a good thing to do as well. And come out and see me at the Carlson Center. We'll be at the gun show at the Carlson Center next week.
Oh, awesome. We'll do.
All right. 18 seconds now. Getting ready to jump back into it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We're ready to go. And we're going to... somebody said the Earthship vibe. Yes, they're building an Earthship in their window. That's what they're doing with all those cans. All right, here we go. Jumping back into it. Let's get it done right now.
What the hell is an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yeah, did I hurt? Show me on this stall where I hurt your feelings. I'm just saying right now, just point to the dirt. And of course, we guarantee that none of the people on this show today, none of us have murder guns. It's all protection guns. No attack guns, no murder guns, all protection guns. I am joined by Dalton, James, and Moriah from the Northern Hunter podcast. You can find them at thenorthernhunter.com. Where they have over 80 episodes talking about all different aspects of hunting. They initially came on to talk about their bear baiting seminar, which is going to be going on next Saturday at 12 noon, the J.P. Jones Center down in the south side there. And I guess barbecue lunch is provided. Is that what it says there? So it should be.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, man, barbecue. You may have had me at barbecue. I may not even care about the bear bait. So it should be good. Why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown? Give us if you've got like an agenda or a synopsis of what you're going to be covering in that. Why don't you, James or Dalton, why don't you give us a rundown of the things that you'll be covering? What can we expect if we show up at the seminar?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, there's going to be barbecue. So my buddy is working on getting a catering gig up and running. So I told him this is his chance to kind of share it with the hunting community and share his food. So that's going to be exciting. And that's kind of what I hoped is if for nothing else, people will show up for the barbecue. And then
always lead with the food. Always lead with the food, right?
I mean, barbecue and bear bait, and it doesn't get much better than that. So, but no. So with this event, we're going to have it's a fairly large seating area. We can house quite a few people there. So we're not really too worried about getting overcrowded. If we do, that's a great thing. We'll just move the event outside. Not the end of the world. But when you show up, we're going to have basic presentations, and it's going to be very interactive is the other thing. This is kind of the reason we chose the term workshop. This is not a show up and watch us talk and then go home and hopefully you took notes. We're going to be interacting with the group. We've got
hands-on, like kind of a hands-on.
As hands-on,
yeah,
as hands-on as we can make it. So, and just kind of working with the crowd to gauge experience levels, gauge what they're comfortable with. We're going to be talking about the reasonings for bear baiting and the ethics behind it, safety considerations when you're walking in, things like that. Kind of how to present bear baiting, because that is a huge thing with the respect that we show the animals and the respect that we show this hunting style. We're going to talk about the biology of bears and the cycles that they go through in the spring when they're waking up, what they're looking for as far as food goes. when they go into rut, all these great things. We've got Carl Roberts is going to be showing up. He worked for Fish and Game for got to be 15 years, something like that. And so he's got a lot of knowledge. He's been involved with a lot of bear studies in the interior. And so he's going to provide a lot of great knowledge. And then additional to that, I mean, setup, how to find a spot on your maps, how to set up your bait site to be successful, all the rules and regulations surrounding it, because there's a bunch of them.
Right.
You know, what you have to have there, what you can't have there. And then weapons type, shot placement, things to how to plan out your arsenal for bear hunting. And then we're also going to have a bunch of giveaways. We've got some great sponsors. Batum 907 is one of our sponsors. She's provided some stuff for a giveaway, so you can come get some supplies to bear bait. We've got Ryan Lampers with Stealthy Hunter has provided us with some stuff, donations, and it's all been great stuff. So we're going to hopefully be able to get some people some equipment to get out there, and we'll have samples of all of the Batum 907, not all of the Batum 907 scents, but a lot of them are our favorites, including Nasty Boar, which anybody that's heard us talk about Nasty Boar, that will be in the parking lot.
That's the stuff. That's the stuff. So we're not barbecuing the bear bait. I just want to make that clear. That's not what's being offered here, right? Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
Although that does sound like an awesome name for some barbecue, Nasty Boar. I mean, that just says, it just does sound like a barbecue pit down somewhere. You can picture the guy with the greasy apron going, "Yeah, it's nasty." Right. Well, do me a favor, because you mentioned it earlier. I mean, baiting is, for some people, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's an animal and it's supposed to be there for me. That's kind of how I view it. But a lot of people, like you said, it's kind of controversial. So what's your reaction? What's your explanation to people who say, it's so unfair. You're treating the bear so poorly, and it's just God's creatures, and you shouldn't be hunting it anyway, you savages. So, I mean, but let me play the devil's advocate for a second and just say, is bear baiting, is it ethical? Is it right? Is it, give me your canned, response. Cause I'm sure you've probably heard this. You've probably heard that a time or two, right? I mean, what's your guys' response? Let's go around the table.
We've had this discussion quite a bit with quite a few people, actually. And the basic response is absolutely yes. It is 100% ethical. It's a real hunting style. I think a lot of the misconceptions come from the baiting of other animals that you might see in the lower 48, whether it's deer in Michigan or Texas, or, hogs, where they just kind of come roaming in. With bears, it's a very different thing. You have predator management that is a necessity with any conservation effort. You have to manage predator populations if you want to continue to harvest ungulate populations. It's the balance there. The yin and yang, you could say. If you're going to shoot moose, you should be shooting bears and wolves too. And we talk about that a lot on our podcast. We've spent, I don't even want to know how many hours talking about that subject, but, as far as the method of take, one of the greatest things with the bait is you're creating a controlled environment to view these animals. Bears are not typically running around on hillsides like caribou. Right. They're in the thick stuff. They're in the low drainages. They will expose themselves at certain times of the year when they're looking for food and when they're mating and they're just roaming around. Sometimes they don't care, but they live in thick cover. And so creating a bait situation, you are basically making them expose themselves from that thick stuff and giving you a shot opportunity, but not just a shot opportunity, but a selective shot opportunity. You're able to gauge each animal as it walks in. You're able to see, okay, is this boar a mature boar? Has he grown? Has he had a chance to pass on his genetics? Is he full grown? The taking of sows in Alaska is legal as long as they're not accompanied by cubs. And so you are allowed to shoot male and female bears. When you're at a bait, you're able to watch a sow come in and see if she has cubs, if she's accompanied by any, because the cubs aren't always at her heels. Whether they're on a hillside or walking into the bait, she'll often have them off somewhere for 15 minutes or so until she feels it's safe for them to come in, especially if you have a lot of big boars coming through. So allowing yourself the time and the patience to take an ethical shot, a well-placed shot at a well-known animal, I think it's huge. I think it's the most ethical way to hunt bears, you could almost say.
Right.
Because the fact of the matter is you're going to be hunting bears regardless, right?
Right.
I mean,
Well, and I think the conservation aspect is key. Dalton, what do you think?
Part of this misconception about bear baiting being real hunting or not is a topic that I see a lot of back and forth on. Similar
Right.
in the low 48 right now, they're dealing with a lot of controversy surrounding hound hunting. And is that ethical and should that be legalized? For our terrain up here in the interior, especially from Fairbanks and out a couple 100 miles, pretty much any direction from Fairbanks, it's all lowland timber. It's very heavy brush and undercover that those bears just live in. And some of them you may never see on an open roadway or on an open hillside. You know, they move
Right.
through that in the dark during non-hunting times of the year, perhaps. And so there are over 100,000 black bears that live in Alaska and over 30,000 brown and grizzly bears that live in Alaska. Contrast that to approximately 175,000 moose that live in the state, from what I could find on the interweb. But that being said, bears need to be controlled. And just from a harvest standpoint, there is no way that hunters in this part of the state in particular can properly manage the predator population without using baiting. That would be like taking away trapping and saying, now you guys find a different way to kill all the wolves. It
Right.
just wouldn't happen.
Right.
That's not how the system works. And
Because
so bear baiting,
there's a whole component of terrain and everything else. Like you said, these guys are in the
Right.
scrub, they're in the lowland, they're in the muskeg, they're in the bogs, they're back in the,
right.
they're almost impassable for a human being to get into a lot of these places. So you have to draw them to you.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so bear baiting, like James talked about, gives us an opportunity to get into an area that normally you wouldn't even bring binoculars on a hunt if you were going to hunt that spot, because you're never going to be able to see more than 25 yards through the brush. But that allows us to haul in there and spend a ton of money, by the way. This is not a cheap endeavor, and this is not a small investment of time either. We have kind of a running joke around here that we kill $1,000 bears because the cost of feeding them and all of the lures and attractants from like Beta 907, one of our show sponsors. And then you have trail cameras and tree stands and rifle or bow and all the hardware and gear that goes into bear baiting. It's not a cheap ordeal.
Right.
It can be done on a budget for someone that just wants to get out there and just get started. But the longer you do it, the more money you put into it invariably. And so that opportunity for us, being able to get out into these areas where otherwise bears wouldn't even get shot. They would just die of old age, and that would be that. And on average, grizzly bears are killing about 30 moose calves per spring in some of these areas. And black bears are no slouch at killing moose calves either. And so every bear you kill, you look at that and you kind of figure out how many bears, how many moose calves this particular bear might have killed in its lifetime prior, and then how many more you might have saved in years to come, because you're not just saving this year's moose calves, you're saving the next year and the next year. And some of these grizzly bears are living well north of 20 years, and black bears can also reach those ages. So that's kind of my perspective on it. Is the biggest thing is we just don't have anywhere to hunt them up here. If you lived somewhere down by, like, say, the Palmer area, a lot more south central, you have a lot more mountainous terrain. You have a lot more of the what I like to call alpine country, where you have mountainsides above the brush line where you can see sometimes over 15 black bears in a night just glassing the mountainsides. And that might be a lot better opportunity, because those bears might not even be as attracted to bait sites because they have so much other natural food at their disposal. And so just taking that as the terrain where you're at and judging off of that and saying, all right, is it worth putting a bait in here? And basically once you get up past Cantwell on the Parks Highway, pretty well anywhere north of there is plenty thick enough that you're not going to be shooting a lot of bears spot and stalk. So baiting is the most effective and selective way to be shooting the right bears too.
Yeah, it's not that it's not possible, but it's that the success rate would drop so much if that was our only option.
Yeah.
All right, we're talking with the guys from the Northern Hunter podcast. We didn't get to Mo's comments here, but we're up against the break, so we will take it real quick, and we'll be back with more. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk with them a little bit about the podcast as well. Maybe a little bit of the history, the genesis of that, and the topics they've covered. The Northern Hunter podcast. You can find them at thenorthernhunter.com. We return, the Michael Duke Show. By the way, firearms are not about hunting. I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, just throw that out there for just in case people were wondering. We'll be back with more right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Your mental suppository. The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, in the break right now, getting things ready. So, sorry, Mo, we didn't get a chance to get to your thoughts. Do you have anything to add on the whole baiting ethics, or anything else?
Well, the one thing I would say is this is the biggest thing I've always, whenever somebody looks at me and, because I think the biggest, especially among hunters anyway, the biggest controversy for bear baiting versus non-bear baiting, because obviously it exists among the community as well as outside of it, is, they say, well, you're taking the easy route, right?
Yeah.
And Dalton mentioned, we call them $1,000 bears, and a lot of times they cost a lot more than that. That's just how we get away with it, right? Because another thing, fuel. Sometimes you're driving hours and hours away to find a spot to put a bait in. And, and once you do that 2 or 3 times and you make that drive 2-3 times a week. But really the point is, like, guys look at us and act like, oh, well, you're just taking the easy route.
Yeah. You're throwing dog food in your backyard and shooting bears off the porch.
Right. Well, and the truth of the matter
is,
is it's way more work than jumping in a truck, driving somewhere and hiking around looking for a bear.
Oh,
there's
right.
far more work that goes into it.
If I could just walk 20 miles and shoot bears, that'd be way easier.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot more work that goes into it. You should, if you're doing things right, and it's not always a guarantee, you should have a higher success rate than maybe trying to spot and stalk every weekend.
Right.
During baiting season, but it's not easier. That's a misnomer.
Well, and again, the geographics, right? I mean, just the terrain, having to try and transit to where the majority of these bears would live. I mean, sometimes it would be an impossibility.
Yeah.
And thank God you guys aren't calculating your bear meat on a dollar per pound average.
No.
$35 a pound for bear meat, by the time you're all said and done.
That's because I got to convince my wife it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper, honey. We're filling the freezer. Don't pay no attention to that $1,000 check that I wrote over there for whatever. Yeah. No, I mean, it is definitely a thing, and that I never had a problem with that. It's like, again, you mentioned the controversy in the lower 48 of, baiting hogs, which are a menace. They should be baited and killed anyway. Or even salt licks or whatever. I mean, I've never had a problem with that. You're making it too easy. Well, yes, I'd like to put meat in the freezer. I'd like to spend the least amount of calories to get the most amount of calories, right?
Yeah.
That's called smart hunting. I don't know why people would say that that's a bad thing. We're just, we're predators. That's what we do. We're out there to make it work. So I guess that's how, if you guys had asked me the question, I'd be like, we're predators. We win. That's what it is. I mean,
End of story.
End of story. There's no debate,
Thanks for joining our show today.
Exactly. That was it. That's the whole show. That's the seminar. We're predators. $25. But that's the thing. I mean, my belief is that we were given the whole thing, right? I mean, my belief is that this is for us, and we're supposed to be caretakers. And as you said, if every single bear destroys 30 moose every year, and you are able to kill 1 bear or 2 bears a year or whatever you're legally allowed to take or your group is going to take, just think about the number of moose. I mean, that's the problem. We've had a problem with moose population in this state for years.
Oh yeah.
And part of it is we're not doing a great job of predator control because everybody's clutching their pearls about how great the wolves are and the moose or the bear.
They're so fluffy.
They're so fluffy. I want to take one home and kiss it. Please do. Please kiss it right in the face and see what happens.
If not friend, why friend shaped?
Yeah, exactly. you know, so I mean, yeah, we'd all like to be able to share. I mean, this place should have, you know, we should have 300,000 or 400,000 moose instead of 150 or 180 or whatever the number is these days. But it's because you get a lot of pushback on that stuff. So I have no problem with that. But I think you're right. You guys laid out a great argument, and I hope that some folks show up and ask those questions, because you guys have given a great argument there. Let's see. Jeannie says, well, first of all, this might interest you guys. Kathleen says, contact me if you want to go to Bristol Bay. I own a native allotment. So you guys should reach out to Kathleen, I guess, and over there. although Brian just said that one sound baffle is driving me nuts. The one right over the engineer's shoulder where it's
oh, is it the they're on Velcro, so he can fix it.
There you go. His OCD is like triggered, Anyway, I've got some of the best listeners out there. The chat room folks are so much fun. Jeannie says, I have a chunk of property north of here. While I'm out bear hunting, I stumble across bait stations set up by people other than me. Keeps the game agents busy. Put me in a tough spot to walk up on a station I didn't know about. I hate to jump a bear that's feasting. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Always
all right.
carry a gun and be ready.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I think it was Dalton that said, you can't see 25 yards in front of you.
Yeah.
You run into a bear at 25 yards, the pucker factor is high. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
If you were not expecting it, that is the time where you better make sure you're wearing the brown pants, right? Because
yes.
And there's a regulation that might help her she could be aware of. So we can maybe cover that too.
All right. We're going to jump back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show, the Northern Hunter Podcast. Our guests, let's do this thing. Here we go.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Duke Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
I mean, assault penguins are a thing. I mean, those guys are scary up close, man. Don't be doing that. All right, we're joined by the fellas from the Northern Hunter Podcast. You can find them at thenorthernhunter.com. We just spent the last 5 minutes talking about the ethics of bear baiting and everything else. A good discussion. If you missed it, go over to the podcast and listen to it after the show, or watch it on the replay on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, where we are right now. We're coming down. This is the last segment for this hour. And so I got, just a couple questions about the podcast itself. Just a reminder before we go deep into that, next weekend, Saturday, JP Jones Center, 12 noon. What's the cost to jump into the
cost?
No cost to the workshop.
No
free barbecue. Oh, you guys
free barbecue, free education.
For you guys are done now. There'll be a line out the door for free barbecue. All right. Well, let's talk about the podcast itself. I know that on your about page, it tells a little bit about each one of you guys. Dalton was born and raised in Fairbanks. Mariah is Alaska born. James, you came up here. You mentioned in 2009. What made all you guys decide to get together and said, let's try this podcasting thing? This sounds like fun. It's no work at all. Give us a little bit of a genesis here of what's going on and how the whole thing got started.
Yeah. So the backstory is essentially based around a lot of my experiences as a import here, you could say. So coming here in 2009 with the military, I didn't know much about anything as far as hunting in Alaska goes. I mean, I grew up in Kansas, so it's as different from Alaska as you could possibly get. But I understood that there's opportunity here to, harvest these massive animals that you can actually eat all year long. It's not just a deer that's going to last you 3 months. It's a moose that'll last you all year long. Caribou are plentiful, and you can go chase them around. And then getting into bear baiting. And the thing with the experience that I had was despite the fact that I'm on a podcast and now the radio and whatnot, I'm actually extremely introverted. And I don't talk to a whole lot of people unless I have to. But the one thing I can open up with people about is hunting and guns and just about anything, backwoods American,
Right.
So I started just picking anybody and everybody's brain about how they do things, what they do, and started talking to other people who were basically listening into the conversations I'd have in the lunchroom or on the job site with other more experienced guys and whatnot. And so it became pretty obvious that there was a need for more advanced hunter education in Alaska. And the great thing is, through our podcast, we've actually not only been able to reach local people, local Fairbanks and Anchorage, but also out-of-staters, people in the lower 48, people across both big ponds. We've got listeners in the UK and Denmark. We've got listeners in Australia, people who want to come to Alaska and are also interested in doing, moose hunts, caribou hunts, things like that. And so kind of helping them figure out the regulations and how to navigate their planning phase of everything. So it's been really great for outreach, and it's really something where if you don't happen to fall into the right friend group, right? And a lot of these guys, they come up here and they might ask their, in Maxwell's case, asking his sergeant, "Hey, can I go hunting with you? Can I go hunting with you?" No, I want to keep this spot to myself,
Right.
and there's just kind of that gatekeeping there. There's a lack of information being passed down through the generations. And so when basically see a need, fill a need, right? And so when I kind of sparked that idea of, okay, this is something we could actually do and fill a need, Dalton, who was one of the people I used to get in trouble with all the time for talking hunting and guns on the job sites with, they would do their best to keep us on the opposite side of the build. So, but I came to him, approached him about the idea, and he was all about it. And Dalton's been involved with the hunting industry ever since coming back to Alaska and different events and things. And so he was all about it. And he's kind of turned into, the right-hand man with the marketing and the outreach, getting this in front of people. And so I'll just pass it to you then for that.
Yeah. I was actually spent a lot of my childhood overseas in Fiji. My parents were missionaries. My dad was originally from Fairbanks, and his family moved up to Fairbanks with great foresight in the late 1970s. My granddad had a big archery shop in California back in the day and was a hunting guide down there. Big time bow hunter. He's a well-known name. He's since passed away. But anyway, growing up with that rich family heritage of hunting, all I could think about as a kid was just coming back to Alaska to hunt. And that turned into moving back to Fairbanks as a young teenager. And my goal became to be a hunting guide, which I now am. I've been guiding for several years now. And when James approached me with the idea of starting a podcast, I had always been very interested in doing something like that, but never had the group of guys to just pull it off. And so James is the entrepreneurial mindset of the group, and he said, "Well, if you want to, then let's just get this done and just make it happen." And once you put your feet to the fire, and it's production time every single week. And to date, we have not missed a release date on Monday morning, putting out a show. And we even went through a time last fall where we were putting out 2 episodes a week, Monday and Thursday. And the show has been well received. We have 6 great sponsors of the podcast: Batum 907, here local Alaska Bear Bait Attractants and Lures Company; Weatherby Rifles in Sheridan, Wyoming. They're also one of our partners. Troy Sessions with 60-Inch Club is another one of our great sponsors. Great game bags and rafts and hunt planners for DIY type of deals.
And just a great guy.
Yeah. Troy's a great one. And then Stealthy Hunter with Ryan Lampers. He's been a good friend of ours, helped us get started. A lot of folks might recognize him from the Gritty YouTube channel, but Ryan has become a good friend of ours and helped us out tremendously. And then Hammer Bullets in Kalispell, Montana is one of our big sponsors as well. The finest mono-metal bullets on the market. Then Yukon River Knives is our final sponsor, providing us with some fine cutlery. And for anybody interested in that, if you go to our website and go to the partners page, we have discount codes live for 5 out of those 6 sponsors currently. And so anybody that wants any of those products from those companies, You can shop anything from game bags to rafts to bullets to, Stinky Nasty Boar from Batum 907. Those 5 companies have those discount codes. And then also we have some merch on our website as well, trying to grow that local brand. So that's the direction we're headed.
Yeah. And then you brought Mo into the mix because, you guys are the idea guys, and then you got the guy that actually has to do the work in the background, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So luckily, Dalton, you two had become related very recently at that point. And so he suggested, I'm not that tech savvy. Dalton's tech savvy ish, but not really.
Not at all.
And so he suggested bringing Mo into the mix, and it's been a great thing. So go ahead.
Yeah, when Dalton got back and he wanted to get into hunting, like he said, and we hit it off, became fast friends, even before he met my sister, believe it or not. And anyway,
for which we never forgive him.
Yeah,
never forgive you for meeting my sister.
It's been a hot topic, but we started hunting when they got back to the States, and we spent hours, days, and months in the woods, for several years,
right?
Until we both got responsible with families and all that kind of stuff. But and now we do it as much as we can still. But there's a lot of hunting podcasts out there that we listened to for several years there, and Dalton actually got me interested in several of them, and I'd mentioned it, like we should do a podcast, but it never went anywhere. And he finally says, "Hey, James wants to do something." I hadn't even met James yet, and I was like, "Well, if you guys are doing something, don't count me in. Whatever, I'll just jump in." And so we sat down around his kitchen table one day and said, "What are we going to do?" And I started saying, "Well, we need this equipment, and it's going to cost a lot of money. Is what this is going to take, time and money."
I know. Trust me. I'm a one-man show here, and when I looked at the bill, I went, "Oh, damn, that's okay. We got to do it. That's how it works."
Exactly.
All right, Mariah and James and Dalton, the Northern Hunter podcast. You can find them at thenorthernhunter.com. Their bear baiting workshop is going to be next Saturday, 12 noon, over at the J.P. Jones Center, free of charge. Go over there and take a look at their website. Get them all checked out. Get the things. Boys, thanks for coming in. This was fun.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a blast.
We'll have to do it again. Hold the line for just a second, guys. All right, folks. That's hour 1 in the can. It is the fastest 2 hours in radio every single day. We're going to be back with more. Chris Cheng is going to be joining us in about 20 minutes. Plus, we got headlines and then Willie Waffle. If you got to go, be kind, love one another, live well. We're going to be back with more right after this. I'm a slave to the clock. Slave.
Yep.
So that was fast, but it was a good conversation. I'm excited for you guys. I think that is that's great, and I'm glad. So you guys are out. I'm assuming it's everywhere, right? iTunes, Google Play, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, every place.
Yeah, I think we're on 15 different platforms, something like that.
We should be on all of them.
Yeah.
If we're not on one, send us an email and I'll figure out how to get us on there at this point.
I haven't found one we're not on yet. So
yeah, no, with most of the new hosting services these days, it's like you're pretty much everywhere if you can get it done. So as long as your RSS is good, you are good to go. But Spotify's my favorite, folks. Everybody should go out and check them out. Everybody should check them. Wait me a second. I got my Spotify open here. Hold on a second. Let me see here. The Northern Hunter on Spotify. The Northern Hunter podcast. Oh, hey, let me hit the little follow button there. There we go. Added to my library. There we go. All right, so we're all good to go here with that. So go out and peg it. While you're there, make sure that you subscribe to the Michael Duke Show podcast as well, because hey, why not? Jim, I'm sorry, I just looked down and Jim had made a comment about how long you been listening to this program? What kind of hippie talk is that? I've been saying that for like 7 years at the end of every hour, or at least the end of every show. That's the thing. I think everybody should be able to go out in the woods and just hang out and be together, even if they don't agree on whatever politics, wood ticks, lunatics, whatever it is we're talking about. So
Absolutely.
it's good stuff. So you guys make sure you reach out to me when you do your next workshop. Sorry, had a senior moment there. Near your next workshop, and just keep us in the loop. And if you guys ever want to have a talk about firearms specifically,
ooh, we love firearms talking.
Give a guy a call. If you guys need to do an episode on firearms, feel free to reach out. I suppose I should reach out to somebody like Weatherby or Bass Pro and have them sponsor Firearms Friday. I've just never had. I need a marketing guy. Hey Dalton, I need a marketing guy.
I charge a lot of money, but I never get any.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, those are my best kinds. You send me the bill, I'll never pay it. It'll be fine. It'll be great. All right. So again, next Saturday, and I will send you the link to the gal. I will send you the email to the gal who does the outdoor show, because again, they're always looking for people to come in, and it'd be a great way to expose yourselves in a non-creepy way. Expose yourselves to
way, right?
Or, hey, whatever floats your boat. We'll do that. I'll send that over to you. But again, everybody in the chat room, go over and check them out right now on Spotify, and let me know. Let me know what you think, and give them feedback, and give them, if you're on iTunes, that iTunes algorithm. Oh my God, the iTunes
5-star review.
Make sure you go over there to iTunes and you listen to an episode and give it an honest review, one way or the other. But go over there and do it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on board this morning. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. So hope you got a lot out of it, and hopefully we'll get you some folks showing up over there next Saturday. Appreciate you coming on board.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll give you a round table here. I got to give you 30 seconds each to round table, because I always like to give people the last word. So there you go.
Well, I would just say, if anybody's interested in hunting in Alaska, check out the podcast, check out the website. We're working on more and more stuff all the time. So we are working on getting more articles written, more podcast episodes out, more of these in-person events, kicking off a YouTube channel soon, hopefully. So if you keep track of the website, subscribe to our stuff. We've got social media. If you search at The Northern Hunter on either Facebook or Instagram, you'll find us there. And just stay tuned, because we're gonna be getting as many people out in the woods as we can. So
okay.
I think the biggest thing to help us out, Michael, is listener interaction. So we are being heavily suppressed by big media. Our Instagram account has been suppressed multiple times, including just a couple of days ago. The best thing that folks can do to help us continue to grow our platform is to email us into the show with questions to further our breadth of topics that we can cover in direct response to what people want to hear about. That listener interaction is what we thrive on. And then just leaving us a positive review or a comment on whatever platform you're listening to us on, and sharing the show with a friend. Just copy that link and send it to somebody that hunts, that would enjoy the show, and that might have something to contribute, or that can send it to a beginner that needs to learn something.
Right.
So that's just the community that we're trying to grow, and we're trying to beat the big system.
Protect the hunting culture.
That's right.
Oh, I know all about. That's why I don't say Firearms Friday in the descriptions of any of my videos, because I only say Friday for a reason. Mariah.
Yeah, well, it's thanks for having us on. I grew up with riding places every Friday. Me and my dad would go to Reformers Unanimous there at Bible Baptist. My dad helped out with that, and we listened to your show on the way when it was in the evening at that time.
Right.
And when one of these guys said, "Hey, we're going on Michael Duke's Firearms Friday," I just said, "Wow, this has been at the time, I don't remember how old I was, but it was you were on the radio, you were a big deal, and you still are, but
still a big deal, right? Yeah, I'm a legend in my own mind, so it's all good.
Yeah. But it's been great. Thanks for having us on. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you guys. And again, if you ever need a guest to come in and talk guns or whatever, then feel free to hit me up with it, and we'll do it together. We'll do a team up or something anyway. All right. Northern Hunter Podcast, thenorthernhunter.com. Go register for that bear bedding seminar. I got a flea Got to flee. We got to go. It's we're 30 seconds out. Boys, thanks so much for being part of it. We will see you next time. Good luck with all that. All right, folks. That's it for us for now. Hour 2 is now. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for riding, it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Duke Show. Welcome to hour 2 of the big radio show. Fastest 2 hours in radio. We just finished up with the boys from the Northern Hunter podcast. You can find them at thenorthernhunter.com. Great conversation. I really enjoyed that. That's, there's something great about, little inside baseball here. It's just something great about long form interviews with folks. I love that. I just love sitting down and having a conversation, about this, about this kind of stuff. I love to hear the beginnings and where people come from and what they're passionate about. I mean, quite honestly, it's why I did a podcast for a while called Finer Things that dealt with a lot of this kind of stuff, because I love to sit down and hear what people, where they came from and what they're doing and everything. So anyway, it was good. It was an enjoyable discussion. We got some other things to talk about here this morning for just a few minutes. We got a couple of headlines that we're going to get into. And we're going to talk about, some of the stories from around the country. Then we're going to be joined by Top Shot Chris Cheng, who is going to be joining us here about 20 after the hour or so, and we'll chat with him about a little bit of everything, including this latest case that's going up before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's the California Rifle and Pistol Association's challenge to Senate Bill 2, May versus Bonta, not Bonita, sorry, May versus Bonta. And it seems like the problem is that unfortunately the court is a little hostile. The court is a little hostile, including Chuck Mitchell, the CRPA president, who said today the Ninth Circuit heard oral arguments in 3 separate sensitive places cases, including CRPA's challenge to SB 2 May v. Bonta. Unfortunately, the panel seems to be hostile to our side and may be dead set on mostly reversing Judge Carney's excellent ruling. If that happens, CRPA will consider filing a cert petition for the Supreme Court to correct the panel's errors. So there's lots of stuff going on. These guys down in California are on the these guys are on the bleeding edge of this kind of stuff right now. And it's good to see. It's good to see how they can how you can do that. I have no faith really in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, although they have made some interesting rulings as of late. This may go then to either the full, instead of an en banc 3-judge panel, it may go to the en banc panel, and we may see more from that, or it may go to the cert of the Supreme Court. So we'll talk about all that here in just a bit. I started off talking about the new ATF rule, which is aimed at private sales. not the gun show loophole. The Biden administration and all the talking head media, the anti-gun folks, are touting the ATF's new rule governing sales as something that closes the quote-unquote gun show loophole, but that's not really what it's about. Instead, what they're doing is they're trying to crack down on private sales of firearms by broadening the definition of who is, quote, engaged in the business, unquote, of selling firearms. Now, the problem is that potentially that could open up millions of gun owners to criminal prosecution if they get down and dirty on this. Now, it's interesting to see what's happening, but you could see the narrative is already being formed. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, was quoted repeating another basic lie about gun shows. Under this regulation, it will not matter if guns are sold on the internet, at a gun show, or at a brick and mortar store. If you sell guns predominantly to earn a profit, you must be licensed and you must conduct background checks, which that's all true. If you were selling guns to make a living, that was already all true. That had nothing to do. Here's what they're doing. They're moving the goalpost, right? Now it's not people who are just obviously trying to make a living selling guns. Now they're going to muddy the waters to figure out maybe if you even sold one gun, maybe if you made a profit, quote unquote. He said this regulation is a historic step in the Justice Department's fight against gun violence. It will save lives. Explain to me exactly how criminals are going to care about your law. I'm throwing that out there. These same rules already apply whether the sales takes place at a brick and mortar show, a gun show, an online, in a back alley. There's no loophole allowing gun dealers to bypass the background check system. It's just not there. The final rule, expected to be submitted Thursday to the Federal Registry by the BATF, according to Politico, would eliminate a loophole that allows sales of guns without background checks outside of brick and mortar stores. Again, they keep acting like this has nothing to do with FFLs. In its main, what it's trying to do, it's trying to intimidate people and muddy the waters and make them confused. Gutowski from The Reload says, to me, it seems like more of an attempt to cast a cloud over people selling used guns to make them think they need a license, even if it's not entirely clear that they do, which unfortunately is not an uncommon thing for the ATF to do. The goal here is to have more used sales go through background checks. That's what they want. They want all sales to go through background checks, but they can't do that under current law. So they're trying to get as close as possible by either forcing people to get licenses or making people who are selling their used guns think that they might need a license. Again, this is a total muddying of the water. And it's a problem. The problem is that the new verbiage is also so confusing. You may, some people, and even a single firearms transaction or an offer to engage in a transaction, when combined with other evidence, basically where a person says he's willing to acquire more firearms for resale or may require a license. There was some discussion about verbiage about whether or not you made a profit. So if you bought a gun, held onto it for 5 years, and turned around and sold it, you paid $300 for the gun. Then you paid, you sell it for $350 or $400. Now, are you engaged in the business of selling firearms? I mean, this is a legitimate question. It is. I mean, it's crazy. It is really crazy. But this is, if they can't get it, they're going to try and do it through executive action. There's already a lawsuit coming on this. There's already a lawsuit is coming. It's, you can see that this is going to be a tough thing. The executive director of the NRA-ILA, Randy Kosich, says the latest Biden administration attack on law-abiding gun owners is a blatant attempt to coerce Americans to forego legal activity with firearms under the threat of potential confiscation of their lawfully acquired and constitutionally protected property. The administration has conceded that it cannot enforce this unlawful rule in criminal cases because they know it exceeds the limited authority granted to them by Congress, and in some cases expressly contradicts the statutory text. The translation of that is, well, lawsuit incoming is what it means. So good. There you go. There you go. This is the Biden administration's move to push this new stuff and just, so frustrating to watch this kind of stuff. Remember, this is the guy who's pushing all this, the Muppet in chief. I mean, this is the guy that encouraged you as legal advice to, if you see an intruder, just stick the shotgun out the window and blast 2 blasts in the air. He's also the same guy that said this.
Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun. Makes it more, you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun. It's essentially turning it into a short barrel rifle, which has been a weapon of choice by a number of mass shooters.
I couldn't find a single instance of a short barrel rifle being but again, putting this on a gun that increases the caliber of the bullet that comes out of it. Oh my God, please stop talking. Just stop freaking talking, you Muppet. But don't worry. He says he's not done with his anti-gun action. He's not done with his anti-gun action. He's going to continue. POTUS, more like potato. Anyway, but he's not done. He's not done. He's going to fix it. Don't worry. He and all the other people, it's going to be a fun time. All right. We got to go. We're going to continue here in just a moment. Chris Cheng is our guest, Chop Shot champion. Oh, he's in the wings. I didn't know he was there already. I was off doing my thing. Dang it. I could have been talking to Chris this whole time instead of reading about the potato in chief. All right, we're going to be back. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Chris Cheng up next. Don't go anywhere. Back with more right after this.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
I just get so agitated by this moron. All the morons. I mean, it's not just him. It's Durbin, right? I mean,
we all know that because of the ammunition magazines that can be strapped onto so many pistols, that these become automatic weapons similar to AK-47s.
What?
Ammunition magazines that can be strapped onto so many pistols that these become automatic weapons similar to AK-47s.
I mean, I want to know, where are those ammunition magazines that turn my guns into AK-47s? Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion. Tell me, I mean, did you find some of those?
I mean, I'm just wondering, how we're going to differentiate the murder guns from the protection guns. And of course, if they've got high capacity magazines that can hold 300 rounds, you strap that to a pistol, it becomes a short barrel rifle all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. In a different caliber. I mean, I want to know. I mean, if we tape these on, I mean, how does that work? I mean, explain to me how that works.
It's mind-boggling that we have these politicians who are creating our laws and have no idea what they're talking about, right? Not only with regards to the firearms themselves, but the use case, right? The self-defense use case. It just falls on deaf ears with so many of these anti-gun politicians, and they think, oh, guns are only used for murder, right? I think that is like they just think all guns are murder guns.
Yep. It's all they can think. Of course, they totally ignore all the security around them, Secret Service, Capitol Police, everything else. They ignore all those guys. Oh, those are the only ones that we could trust with guns. It's a little arbitrary and capricious for them to say the public can't be trusted with guns. Only the people that protect them can be trusted with. I mean, there's the hypocrisy in that. You could smell it from 10 miles away, right?
Yeah, it's a classic guns for me, not for thee attitude, which is very elitist and condescending to, right, all of us normal citizens who are just trying to protect ourselves from real threats, right, from real threats that exist in many of our communities. So it's every day. I follow gun news, and it's like every day it's like something new, something kind of zany, and
these people are. The worst part is that these people are writing laws that affect everyone in the country, and they have no freaking Chuck Schumer.
If you have ever seen a gunman fire what looks like a machine gun with just one hand, that's what pistol braces allow you to do.
I say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
I mean, right? I mean, what? I mean, that's what pistol braces allow you to do. Fire a machine gun with only what? What are you even talking about?
What world are they living in?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite one is the Tucker Carlson, Carolyn McCarthy. You've probably heard this. This is one of the ones that originally caught my attention 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
In February, you introduced the Assault Weapons Ban and Law Enforcement Protection Act of 2007. It would regulate semi-automatic assault weapons, including weapons that have pistol grips, a forward grip, and something called a barrel shroud. Weapons with a barrel shroud would be regulated. What's a barrel shroud, and why should we regulate it?
I think the more important thing is that it also would have had banned the large capacity clips that Colin Ferguson had used, and also the killer.
Okay. But I read the legislation. I'm sorry, I read the legislation and it said that it would regulate barrel shrouds. What's a barrel shroud, and why should we regulate that?
The guns that were chosen back in those days were basically the guns that most gangs and criminals were using to kill our police officers. I'm not saying it was the best bill, but that was the best bill they could get out at that particular time. I actually don't know what a barrel shroud is. I believe it's a shoulder thing that goes up.
It's the shoulder thing that goes up. I believe a barrel shroud is a shoulder. And of course, all lies, right? The majority of, they're not being shot. Most police were not killed with assault rifles or... dude, it is so painful to watch. All right. I'm sorry. We diverged there. We're about to jump back into it. I want to talk about the CRPA Ninth Circuit discussion, and then anything else you want, Chris. We'll be good to go. So let's jump into it. Chris Cheng, our guest, The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. Check out Chris's topshotchris.com. You see it down there. Go check out his website. Let's get to it. Let's give Chris what he wants. You know what he wants. He wants this. He wants this right here.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
All of the protection guns. They're all
sage words.
It is. She's words of wisdom from the Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion, season 4 of the TV show Top Shot, author of the book Shoot to Win. You could find him and all of his stuff at topshotchris.com. He's also spokesperson for the NSSF and one of the founders of the Asian American Pacific Gunners Association. Lots of hats, lots of stuff going on. Hello, my friend.
Hello, and good morning.
How's it hanging? How's it going?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk briefly, just for my, for my own amusement, about the CRPA, the California Rifle and Pistol Association. They started hearing the arguments in the Ninth Circuit yesterday about the SB2, which is May v. Bonta, and it looks like the circuit court is going to be hostile to CRPA, that they're not going to try and use the Bruin historical analogies or anything else. What are you hearing about this case? Are you following this? Are you seeing it? What are folks telling you? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I'm not following it super closely, but definitely it's on my radar. The CRPA is our NRA affiliate, here in California, and they do some really great work. SB2 is all about like CCW restrictions, if I'm not mistaken, and right, it's a way for anti-gun politicians to try and basically put the lid back on the CCW freedoms, right, that we've recently experienced. And so so many of these legal appeals, right, they just go back and forth and back and forth. And as a Californian, it's so confusing, right, to know, okay, today I'm concealed carrying and I can go to these places, but then tomorrow, oh, I can't go to the certain places that I went to yesterday. And then it's appealed and injunctions. All I have to say is this, that I'm really thankful that we have organizations like the California Rifle and Pistol Association that are fighting for my rights.
Yeah.
Not my rights here in California, but my gun rights in California have implications in Alaska and every other state in the union, because anti-gunners, they're paying attention to what state laws, right, are working. And anti-gun laws that stick in California have been replicated, all across the country, right? We've seen states, we've seen pro-gun states like Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Virginia, states that we thought, gun rights are safe and secure there. And over the past decade, right, we've seen a whittling away, assault weapons ban, right? And like in Colorado, right? These states that you just never thought that you'd hear assault weapons bans or magazine capacity restrictions happen. It's happening. And so with SB2, I'm confident that the pro-gun side will prevail here. There's just too many restrictions around where you can't carry with SB2, and it just seems unreasonable on so many levels, right? Like, why would the state issue a CCW permit if you can't exercise it, right?
That's the key question. That is the key question. A right denied, or a right delayed, or a right, in this case, denied by secure, sensitive spaces, is a right denied totally. That's the problem. I mean, they said on the island of Maui, where I lived for almost 2 years, 96% of the island is a sensitive space. 96, because they've got the same sensitive space laws there. And it's insane. You're essentially, taking away that right completely. Now, you're right. I think eventually they'll win. Unfortunately, I think probably the Ninth Circuit will vote against it. They will overturn Carney's ruling, which he had a great ruling on that, by the way, Judge Carney. And then it'll have to go to the Supreme Court again. The Supreme Court's going to have to re-weigh in on this, with states like New Jersey and New York and California and Hawaii putting all these sensitive spaces up and trying to basically disarm you no matter where you go. It's eventually going to become a Supreme Court issue again. They're going to have to reinforce their own rules.
And to be frank, I'm okay with that, right? I think it is actually preferable for a lot of these Second Amendment issues to go to the Supreme Court to make a final determination on everything from assault weapons bans to CCW restrictions, magazine capacity. It goes on and on and on. And if you look at the history of Supreme Court rulings, Second Amendment has not really been a big focus for the Supreme Court historically, right? And so, it wasn't until 2008 with the Heller decision, and now 2022 with the Bruin decision. I mean, these are landmark Second Amendment decisions, and I think it's just the beginning. And I think this is a good thing, right? That the Supreme Court should be weighing in on all of our constitutional rights. I wouldn't say equally per se, but I would say that the Second Amendment definitely has not had its day in the sun, right?
Yeah, you had one major court case, 1934 U.S. v. Miller, which set up the NFA and other things. That was a major case at the Supreme Court level. And then you had Heller, you had McDonald, and you've had Bruin. Those are really the only major Second Amendment cases that the court has seen. And again, the first one was almost 100 years ago. So we went for a period of almost 80 years without not another bite at the apple. And that's been part of the problem. And it really doesn't matter how hard these guys work, because like we saw in Washington yesterday or day before, a judge in Washington has ruled their magazine ban unconstitutional. Now, the Supreme Court stepped in and put a stay on his order while they're fighting it out. So it's still illegal while they fight out the stay, but they're going to find that it's unconstitutional, just like Bonita, the judge down there in California, did. Said, you're not showing us any reason why this is going on. And so I think we are going to win, but they're going to make it as painful and as costly as they can every step of the way.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm hopeful that the Supreme Court can put a lot of these anti-gun arguments and anti-gun bills to rest and rule in favor of freedom and rule in favor of the Second Amendment. And what I hope will do is then free up the mental bandwidth that we are all putting towards solving gun violence in our country, right? Like, let's stop focusing on anti-gun laws that aren't going to do anything to reduce crime. And let's actually focus on solutions like focusing on mental health, like focusing on stricter penalties for criminals who use firearms. Like, let's literally go after the bad guys who are misusing firearms, and let's use societal pressure and the criminal justice system to actually make a difference. But we're still in this kind of post Black Lives Matter, anti-police kind of sentiment. But the pendulum's swinging, right? Crime rates, here in San Francisco and Los Angeles and all these major cities, like, a lot of citizens are finally realizing, oh, hey, we do need the police.
Oh,
and you know what? It shouldn't matter what the color of your skin is if you're committing a crime. Right. If you commit a crime, you got to do the time. I don't care, like, if you're black, brown, Asian, whatever, white. It's like, why are we racializing everything? Now, sometimes race does matter, but, not always. And again, if someone's committing a crime, like they should go serve time in jail. And that serves not just as a deterrent, right, for others, but look, like, that's, for me, justice is people who get punished, right, for crimes that they commit.
Right.
It's just really that simple for me.
We got about 5 minutes here. I wanted to give you the floor. Anything else? So what have you been working on? First of all, how are you feeling? I know you had your health scare. Are you feeling better? Everything?
Yeah. I've got, this, toxic levels of lead. And I actually have like a IV chelation treatment today. It's like a multi-month process. But yeah, things are better. I recently switched to a new lead-free projectile called Centerfire. So it's a frangible round, meaning like it disintegrates. It's like made out of like compressed copper and tin, and so it disintegrates into like a powder when the bullet impacts, metal. But it's all lead-free bullet and lead-free primer. So these are like huge things that will reduce my lead exposure. So yeah, I'm continuing to get healthy, and I'm going to get back out to the range and keep on practicing. But the other thing I've got going on is this coming Thursday, I'm actually going to be with the California Rifle and Pistol Association in Sacramento, and we're going to be spending all day on Capitol Hill in Sacramento talking to state legislators about the Second Amendment. It's not just me. There's, going to be like 14 to 18 other, California residents. And this is grassroots advocacy at its best, right? I really want to encourage Alaskans and any of your listeners, right, to contact your state, pro-gun organizations and go talk to your legislators, right? There's no cameras. It's just, right? Me and legislators are just going to be sitting in a room and me talking about why I believe in the Second Amendment, why I believe that a lot of the anti-gun legislation that, these anti-gunners are putting forward isn't going to do anything for Californians, but they need to hear it from me, right? Like, anti-gun politicians, they often think, the firearms industry, right? Manufacturers and, lobbyists, right, are the ones who are pulling the strings here, with all this pro-gun legislation. It's like, well, yeah, of course they're helping, but ultimately it's got to come from you. It's got to come from me and your average everyday citizens, right? This is such a cool opportunity. And I know a lot of pro-gun organizations do this across the country, right? They go to your state capital and talk to legislators. So I'm very excited for that to happen on Thursday, and I can definitely report back next month when I come back on the show.
Should get a T-shirt made that says "Criminals, by their very definition, break the law." That's what you should get, and wear that into your meeting.
That would make too much sense, Michael.
Gosh, it's so hard. And you talk to these knuckleheads, and they just, they're from this place of emotion that we must do something, and we must, and that's the problem. The unintended consequences is basically disarming average law-abiding Americans and allowing criminals to run amok. I mean, we're seeing it. We're seeing it in major areas, places where gun control is heavy and everything else, and it's just it's frustrating.
As my father likes to say, the do-gooders are at it again.
The do-gooders are at it again. Yeah, we must do we must be seen. We must be seen to be doing something.
Right.
Not necessarily that they care about doing something, but we must be seen to be doing something, which is that's the typical stuff. All right, Chris Cheng, Top Shot champion, topshotchris.com. I know you're working on the rewrite of your book. You got a new book too, right?
I got a new book coming out. Yeah. Basically it's gonna be on Asian Americans and U.S. military history. More to come in the later in the year.
I can't wait to read that. I can't wait to talk more about that, and maybe get us a copy here. We'll give some away on the show or something and do some fun stuff like that.
Awesome.
All right, Chris Cheng, hold the line for a second. Folks, we are out of time. We got more coming up. Willie Waffle is waiting. Well, he's not quite. The phone's going to buzz any second, and we're going to lighten it up with the weekend movie review, because why not? Back with more of the Michael Duke Show.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, Chris Cheng, final bite at the apple. Yeah, I mean, look, you're right. Standing in front of these guys, I don't know if you'll win hearts and minds or not, but they've got to see. They've got to see that this is a diverse group of citizens who are just basically saying, stop taking away my rights because of the actions of criminals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you look, and you look especially statistically, and you realize that it's 0.0009% of the population is doing bad things with firearms. Why would you actually, why would you go after the 99.999% of people who are being lawful? It's always because of, we need to be seen doing something, right? That's essentially what it comes down to.
Yeah, and it's this common recurrence in American history that when somebody or some group does something bad, that politicians often have this knee-jerk reaction, right? They overreact and they sacrifice our civil liberties in the name of security, right? And this happened after 9/11, right? We passed the USA Patriot Act, which was in my opinion, one of the worst, egregious violations of our civil rights in terms of privacy, right? Yep. Targeting innocent Muslim Americans who are doing nothing but just, going to mosque. And we just said, oh, well, we're going to digitally eavesdrop in on, all Americans who, have anything to do with certain, types of people in our country. So, I mean, right, we had this like racist legislation that, it's like, who knows if how effective it was, right? But this is always the rub, right? It's like, well, are we willing to sacrifice our civil liberties under the guise of security? Like, at least the America I love and believe in is that we always should be biased towards liberty and freedom, right? That we have to accept the consequences of liberty and freedom and look, we don't live in a perfect world, right? We're never going to have a violence-free society. Like, I mean, I want that. Sure, don't get me wrong. Like, I want that, but there is just the reality of things. And
it's human nature. You can't legislate insanity or evil. Those are the two things you can't legislate. As much as you want to try, you can't do it. And that's exactly part of the problem that what we're dealing with is you can't do it. And you're right. We're giving those things. I mean, we're still they're having a vote on Section 702 right now in the FISA courts and everything. We're still feeling the ramifications of the Patriot Act that was passed in that few days afterwards where they felt like they needed to do something, right? The 1968 Gun Control Act was another thing where the crime and the violence, and they felt like they needed to do something. The 1934 NFA, they felt like Al Capone and the crew and the prohibition. I mean, they created the problem, but now they needed to do something to curb the criminal element. And of course, the only people that end up getting hurt are us, the law-abiding citizens, right?
Yeah, it makes me think about, Oakland is right across the bay here, right? And used to be the home of the Black Panthers. And, when the Black Panthers went to Sacramento many decades ago, right, to protest against police brutality, and they are open carrying weapons, at the state capitol, and they were well within their legal right to do so. But, Governor Reagan, former President Ronald Reagan, who was our governor at the time, I hate to say, I mean, he was responsible for some very strong anti-gun laws, here in California in reaction, right, to the Black Panthers demonstration, and that obviously set the pro-gun rights movement back a ton, right? And here we are, right? We were just talking about SB2, right? This law in California that is trying to restrict CCW rights. So here we are, decades later, right, trying to unwind these gun control initiatives from decades ago. But right, this is the fight, right? This is for me, it's worth it, right? If we as Americans aren't willing to step up and speak up in defense of our freedom, then who is? Right. That is always the question for me, right? If I'm not going to stand up for my rights, who is? The answer is no one, right? I'm not relying on anybody else to defend and protect my rights and to increase my freedom and liberty. So, we all, I would suggest, right, you need to have that attitude if we're going to continue to be a free country.
Right. Well, and Reagan, I mean, I know everybody loves Reagan, but he was not a pro-gun president. He did the thing there. He allowed the 1986 FOPA to go through, and there's just a ton of things that he did that it was not good, but everybody's got their icons, and they hate to get, we're the ones that take it in the tailpipe on this stuff all the time. All right, Chris Cheng, my friend, thank you so much. We look forward to talking to you. Again here soon.
Thanks for having me on, as always.
Have a great weekend, my friend. We'll see you later, brother.
Bye-bye.
All right, that puts us up into the next segment. My phone is buzzing. So we got to go do that thing that we like to do. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com will be jumping in and joining us here, and we are going to be ready to go. Please like and share. Oh, I suppose I should fix the color. Yep, because that's my job. All right, hey, look at that. It's all orange. You ready to do this? Let's go. Here we go. Okay. I'm so ready for the weekend. So many ways. I'm sure he is as well. Why? Because he's the man with a million jobs and a million smiles. You only wish he had $1 million. It's Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Hello, my friend.
Oh, dear God, please get me to the weekend. Just get me to the weekend.
Just get me there.
Just hold on.
Well, and the worst part about your job is you go see all the movies before the weekend. So you can't even go like, oh, I'm going to look forward to this nice movie this week. Oh, I've already seen it. Never mind. So
That's right. I already did that. Friends call me up. They're like, hey, let's go see this movie. Oh, wait, you already saw that. I'm like, yeah, I already saw it.
I've seen them all. The good, the bad, the ugly. All right, so we got some movies to get to today for sure. I definitely want to talk a little bit about Civil War, but we've got some entertainment news to get to begin with. First and foremost, I guess I'll just get this out of the way. O.J. Simpson died yesterday. 74 years old, died from cancer. Okay, that's about all that's as far as I care at this point. But you've got more news on other things. Where do you want to start with this? Should we? I don't know. You guide me.
Well, you know what? I want to start with the wonderful CBS television network.
Okay.
You know, they are, you know, they're doing very well ratings wise. I mean, you know, there's always going to be the argument, is their audience too old for advertisers? I think that, frankly, I think a lot of that's old fashioned thinking. I think that, you know, everybody who's watching TV is buying stuff. So why not, you know,
right,
advertise on shows where people are watching? So,
Right.
you know, they have gone through a round of renewing some really big shows. And the one that jumped out at me and the one that shocked me the most was the renewal of their show FBI. Now, FBI is a very successful show. I think it's like the number 3 show on television.
Okay.
So why am I surprised? I'm surprised because they renewed it for 3 more years.
Wow.
That's like unheard of.
Yeah,
That's like that's impossible. Nobody gets a 3-year pickup. They don't know what's going to happen in 3 years. But CBS is so invested in this that they said we just want to guarantee that this show is going to stick around for 3 more years. Now they've got a couple spin-offs, right?
Right.
They've got FBI Most Wanted and FBI International. Those all got picked up for 1 more year. And you know, and by the way, who's the person behind all those shows?
Yeah.
Who's the person who created them?
Dun,
Oh,
dun.
that would be Mr. Dick Wolf.
Dun,
Yeah,
dun.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Law and Order, Mr. Chicago, all those shows that are still rolling on NBC, well, they're rolling on CBS too. So, you know, basically Dick Wolf is a very, very rich man.
Right.
Now, you know, we were talking a little bit before we got on the air here. The other announcement the CBS made was late yesterday afternoon. This one I really love. They have renewed the television show SWAT. Now, those of you who remember the history of this are laughing as much as I am. SWAT was canceled last year.
Right.
CBS didn't want it around anymore. And the stars of the show and the fans of the show rallied and you know, sent messages to CBS and convinced them, okay, give SWAT 1 more year. And they did a reduced season load. I think they did like 16 or 17 episodes. They've announced that the series finale was going to be in May. And then CBS yesterday said, yeah, let's do another year. Why not?
Wow.
So now they're scrambling to get, you know, basically scrambling on the marketing, but I think also scrambling on the actors who probably were all looking for other jobs because they're like, this is over, right?
Right. Now they're all scrambling to get it done. Well, and it's, you know, it's funny because CBS was that we were just, I'd mentioned to you earlier that I had just rewatched the series called Jericho, which came out in like 2005. And it was on CBS. It was one of the first shows, you know, in the days of the internet that had a huge fan campaign that brought it back. Because
yes, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, it ended at the end of the first season, and it was a cliffhanger, and people were just bent about it. And there was a whole bit in the thing about peanuts or nuts or whatever. And so they were sending hundreds of pounds of nuts to the CBS executives saying, we want it. And they brought the show back for 7 more episodes and closed it out in the second season. But, you know, this is happening more and more, where more and more things are getting, you know, The Expanse was revived, you know, going from sci-fi, and then it was picked up, and then it was picked up again, and you know, so it's not an unusual thing these days. But I will say this: I'm a little worried about shows like FBI because if you've been following the real news these days, the FBI is not a great organization. You know, the abuse of power, the warrantless searches, the lying on the warrants, all this kind of stuff. And then you see shows like this where they glorify the FBI as if they're some kind of, you know, bastion of whatever. And it's just, I watch it and I feel like it's propaganda. The only show that I feel like gives us the real insight into the FBI is like Blacklist, where those FBI agents are breaking the law to, you know, all the time to help out with the thing. And I'm just like, you know, it bothers me when a show like that becomes the number 1 show and it just feels like propaganda. That's my take.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and I think, you know, what the FBI show is trying to. I think the FBI television program is trying to show the positive side of the FBI. You know, the ground guys who are doing it right and doing good. And yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of scandal we're hearing about the FBI. There's a lot of questions about decisions and policies and actions by the FBI. Totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, eventually, if as long as people are still watching, they're going to keep doing the show. But if people start turning off for reasons like what you said, yeah, then they're in trouble.
Yeah.
And they got 3 more
Yeah,
years.
exactly. Well, and I've never watched an episode of it, and I won't watch an episode of it just quite honestly, because it rankles me, because it irritates me to watch that kind of stuff. Anyway, all right, we'll get off that. Bridget Jones. Bridget. She's back. She's back. One more movie? What is this? The fourth one? Third? What? It's like a lot.
Yeah, this is like the 4th one, and after the last one, I don't even know why they're going for a 4th one. So, this is Renee Zellweger signing up to be Bridget Jones once more. This one is being Bridget Jones, mad about the boy, and they're bringing back Emma Thompson, and they're bringing back Hugh Grant, and we don't really know much about the story, but we do know that it's going to be out. Oh God, hold on your hankies for this one.
Okay.
It's going to be coming out on Valentine's Day 2025.
Okay.
And it will not only be in theaters, but there right now is a plan for it to debut in theaters and on the Peacock streaming network.
All at once. Of course, the big question my wife, I'm sure, will ask will be, where's Mark Darcy? Where's Mr. Darcy?
That's what I want to know, too. Like, I was pouring through all the stories and everything going, what are they doing? Like, this is the guy, Colin Firth. I want to know what's going on with him. And that seems to be kind of in the ether. We're gonna have to, I guess, stay tuned and hold on for that. Maybe Colin Firth is holding out. Maybe he's like, you know what? I could probably score myself a nice little paycheck to pay for all my other really good work that I do. So let's go for it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't think I've seen the third one. I know I've seen the first and second one, but it's okay.
Yeah, the third one I think is when she had a baby or something. I've seen it and I don't remember it. Let me put it that way.
Right, exactly.
Right.
All right. Well, again, trying to capture lightning in the bottle yet again. All right, and then I heard a rumor that Sly Stallone is mean. I heard that the other day.
Oh, horrible.
He's horrible.
Dastardly.
Shocking, I know,
evil.
that Sylvester Stallone might be mean. So give me the quick rundown on this.
Yeah. The controversy is all over the filming of his show Tulsa King,
which is excellent. Which is excellent,
Yeah.
by the way. Tulsa King is excellent.
So they're filming in Atlanta, and the casting director and the casting company that works for them have quit. They've quit. They've resigned. They've walked away because they are very, very angry that Mr. Stallone allegedly criticized a lot of the background extras, very openly calling them ugly, calling some of them a fat tub of lard, some of them called a fat guy with a cane. What's he doing here? And he was upset over these background actors. Now, his argument, at least from what I've seen in the different stories, they were filming a scene where he's in a nightclub that's supposed to be with all the hip 25 to 35-year-olds.
Right.
And let's just say a lot of those extras maybe didn't fit that bill.
Sure.
And then he went on and he said, listen, you got to get some pretty young girls to come in and surround me in here for this scene.
Right.
So there's that controversy going on right now.
Well, I mean, I could see it from his point of view. It's supposed to be a young, hip nightclub. You don't expect a fat guy with a cane to be in there. I wouldn't expect me to be in there as an extra if that's the case. I could.
Yeah, I think the question is just being so vociferous about it in so many ways that people could hear and be offended. Hey, I know I'm a fat guy, but I don't need Sylvester Stallone reminding me in front of the entire cast.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, and I think it's also one of those things where context matters. Maybe, we weren't there, but maybe there's some context there, and maybe it's just another Hollywood group that loves to be outraged. I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going on? He is a producer of this show, so he does have a say in a lot of that stuff. He's not just an actor. It's his baby along with him and Taylor Sheridan. So, but anyway, I don't know. I'll still watch it. It's a good flick. I'll watch it. I can't wait.
Yeah, hey, it's coming back to Paramount Plus eventually. Hey, they're filming right now, so you can't be too far behind.
All right, let's move over to the streams and to the theaters. I do want to get to Civil War, so give me the other two real quick.
Okay. Well, I'll just kind of mention this is one that they're not letting a lot of people see right now. The Good Times animated show on Netflix. Now, this is supposed to be a takeoff on the classic Good Times that we remember from the 70s,
right? But
has gotten a great deal of controversy because, well, this one's from like Seth MacFarlane and a few other folks.
Oh God!
And yeah, exactly. let's just say it's not the good times you remember, that it's
Yeah.
really pushing the envelope and being a little bit more outrageous, and has already stirred up a lot of controversy. I'm curious to see if they can weather it. I'm curious when I get a chance to finally see it, if it's as bad as everybody's complaining that it is. It's easy to complain from a couple of trailers.
Right.
Okay, I'm kind of curious to see the whole thing and see how it plays out. But that's what's going on with Netflix. They found themselves some trouble.
Nostalgia.
And then
Nostalgia. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and that's the thing. I love Good Times. I have always loved that show. And granted, I liked it a lot more in the early seasons when it was a little bit more of a serious show, and it really was more of a commentary about society and where this family found themselves and the fights and the struggles that they had. It became a little bit more goofy as it went on in time, but it was a really good show.
Right.
And I think that's why people are reacting in such a negative way, because
Right.
they're seeing things that you wouldn't have seen on that original show.
Okay. Move on over to The Babysitter. The Babysitter.
Yes, a remake. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter is Dead. And it's in theaters now. It's going to go to BET Plus streaming in about a month. So, if you don't feel like getting to the theater, if you've got BET Plus streaming, you'll be able to check it out there. And it's a very familiar story for anybody who remembers the 90s movie. It's a 17-year-old left to take care of her siblings when the babysitter, who's been hired to watch over them because mom had to go off to a retreat, well, she dies. And now the 17-year-old's trying to take care of the family. She gets herself a job to try to pay some bills. And then, what is a kind of an edgy, dark comedy when it starts off becomes much more of a typical sitcom kind of movie. Oh, the kids are going to run up their credit cards while mom's not away.
Right.
Someone at work is suspicious that the 17-year-old might be underage. Well, no kidding. And stuff like that. It becomes very predictable. It becomes very typical. I think it loses a lot of the outrageousness. I'm at like 2 waffles because I really think this Simone Joy Jones, who plays the 17-year-old Tanya, has a very good screen presence.
Good.
I think she makes some of the lines funnier than they really are. So I'm at like 2 waffles.
I could never understood the premise of this because when I was babysitting my siblings, when I was very young. I mean, Mom, we used to leave my brother and I alone 50 miles from home at a cabin, and we go do chores and water ski, when we were like 14. It was, I don't understand this. 17 years old, she needs a babysitter to watch her and the other. I'm just like, what is going? Anyway, I don't understand it. We'll go on. Let's go. We got about 90 seconds here, just under 2 minutes. Civil War. This is the one I've been wanting to talk about. Give me the rundown.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be almost like the Odyssey, this journey of this group of journalists heading from New York to Washington, D.C., when there is civil war breaking out in America. The president is a controversial figure. There are rebel forces that are planning on attacking him, attacking the White House, and these journalists are making this trip across America, well, from New York to D.C., not that across, let's be honest, and seeing the war-torn country that America has become in a way that we don't see in America. Like we see this in other countries. We see this in the Ukraine, or we see this in other countries where war is broken out. And that's the power of this movie, is those images. Like, what if that ever happened in America?
Right.
Like, this is what it would look like. How would you react? I think that it walks a very fine line, not trying to exploit the politics of today, but there's some stuff there you pick up on pretty quick,
Right.
So, and it does want to be more about the journalists and their reactions and kind of being our eyes and ears. I think it's 3 waffles. I love the imagery. I love the drama there. I think it's separated enough from politics to where I can stomach it, because I'm with you. In the times where it's pretty obvious what they're trying to say, I'm like, oh God, that's not what I wanted to see.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
But I'll go 3 waffles.
3 waffles. All right. So Civil War, 3 waffles. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Thank you, my friend. Folks, we're out of time. We will see you next Monday. We'll see you Monday. We got Nick Begich coming up. Have a great day. Yeah, so I saw some of the trailers. I saw some of the analysis of the movie and everything else. And you're right. Everybody kind of says the same thing. He walks a very fine line. He never tells you what the actual trigger is to cause the Civil War. war. There's some allusions to the divisiveness and the politics and everything else. And people have said it's really more focused on the journalists and their job and what they're doing and getting the message out and everything else. Although I did have to say, I did have to laugh the first time I read the synopsis, and I was like, okay, Texas, I can see. It said Texas and 14 states seceded from the Union. I'm like, okay. And then they're like Texas, and the two leaders are Texas and California. And I'm like, when in the world would California ever secede? You want to talk about a suspension of disbelief? I found that hard to believe.
Well, and I think that was intentionally done to try to get it out of a red state versus blue state battle. That whatever it is that happened united these two diametrically opposed states. One of the most conservative states in the union and one of the most liberal states in the union joined forces. So it's not just your typical red states versus blue states, but some of the rebel forces, they're going to look familiar. There are a lot of people who understand how to use a gun and value their guns. Okay?
Right.
And that message is out there a little bit. I really do wish they had gotten a little bit into the why, because I'm with you. I want to understand, well, what would have caused something like this? And maybe they just avoid it because, let's face it, what reason are you going to come up with? It isn't going to alienate half the public,
right? If you leave it unsaid,
that's the hard part.
Yeah. So if you leave it unsaid, people get to fill in the blank and not be mad about one way or the other.
Yeah, and because this is a hot topic. I mean, there's a reason why this is coming out this year. Okay, let's see, brass tacks, right down to it. This is a scenario that a lot of people think about or worry about or over dramatize. And I'm not saying we're going to break out into civil war, but as we get into the fall, I think we're already seeing a great deal of tension in this country, a lot of fighting back and forth. I'm not saying civil war is going to break out, but I think we're going to see things that we haven't seen during elections before in America.
Oh, it's possible.
And it's not going to be pretty. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be it's going to be unhinged.
There was a poll that came out about 2 months ago where they polled average Americans, and they said 40% of them believed that a civil war would happen in the next 10 years. 40% of the population. That's an actual poll. That's not, let's face it, black swan events, which are big economic catastrophes or some kind of unknown that triggers, these kind of things, they happen usually every 2 generations, sometimes 3 generations. Usually it's within every 50 years. And, the last time we had it happen was in 1930 was with the collapse in 1929. So we're actually overdue. I mean, we could have hit the tipping point at the 2008. We could have hit the tipping point during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, there's several events that could have tipped it over. And something like this, it's the thing is, it's plausible because historically it has happened to other places. And so it's just one of those things where you're like, oof, that's, it's scary, but at the same time, maybe it's a cautionary tale.
Well, I hope it's a cautionary tale. We've become a country of separatists. We no longer view a one America and we're all Americans. Everybody wants to divide up into their own groups. Everybody wants to hear the news that they want to hear. Everybody wants to believe what they want to believe. They don't want to get along with those other people because we've now moved to a point in our country's history where political disagreements are not just political disagreements that we can get by and still enjoy each other.
They're life and death.
Now, political disagreement. Yeah. Well, we've reduced it to a morality. Like somehow, if you don't have my politics, you're evil.
Yeah.
If you don't have my politics, you're so wrong because you're stupid or you're this or you're that. And we've lost that civility that I think we've always had up until I don't even know when. I mean, it's hard to say when we lost it.
Well, we're othering people, right? It's always othering, that group, the out group, and I think it really came to a head with the advent of the internet and social media, quite honestly, because it created those echo chambers. It created the echo chambers where you weren't exposed to disparate thought or thought that run contrary to your own beliefs. And I think that's been a big part of it. Early 2000s is really, I think, when it started to break out. And that was after the internet, it was probably 8 years into the real full internet. And here we are. And it's frustrating. Like I said, I talk about that all the time on the show. We can't agree to disagree. If you don't agree with me, you are the enemy. You are the they, you are the outlier. And that's a problem. I mean, if you can't look at somebody and say, I think you're a great person, I just disagree with your philosophy. If you can't sit down and have a beer and talk about things you can agree with, that's a problem. And that's where we are today. You can't do that, it seems like.
No, it's crazy. I mean, like, at least I have a pretty good open friend group. And one of the things that they always hate when I say this, I'm like, listen, I pretty much oppose almost every single thing that President Barack Obama, passed, fought for, etc. But I think he's kind of a cool guy. Like, I could probably hang out with Barack Obama,
Yeah.
And they all get crazy. Like, but he's that Democrat. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all right. Well, 3 Waffles. I'm going to have to go. I don't know if I guess I'll go see it in the theaters. But again, I still haven't been to. I didn't even go see John Wick. I mean, I haven't even been to a movie theater in like 5 years at this point. So, or 4 years.
Why do you have to anymore? You just hold out a little bit of weight, and it's going to be on streaming. You got that nice little setup at work or at home, man.
Yep,
You're going to be fine.
I could do it. Maybe that's what we need to do. All right. Well, that brings us back to it. Willie, what are we doing? What are we doing next week?
Oh man, no, I gotta read this one because it's hard for me to say, without reading it. Next week we are going to be looking at the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Oh man, I can't wait. That's Henry Cavill and Alan Richardson and a bunch of other great cats. It looks so good. The trailers make it look so. I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to be as good as they say. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Oh man, exciting. Okay, good. Anything else?
Have some really interesting streaming stuff next week that hopefully we'll talk about.
Okay, good. And then Mile 22. All right, we'll talk to you
eventually.
No pressure, brother. No pressure. All right, Willie Waffle, thank you so much. Folks, out of time. Nick Begich on Monday. We will see you then. Have a great weekend.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.